Hey there, mamas. I'm Sarah Priest, and we're back today with another episode of Moms in Timeout. And I have with me today Mary Wiegand, and we're going to chat about all things motherhood and business and how it's possible to have it all. When I became a parent, I didn't want to give up working, but I wanted to stay home with my kids. And I wanted to be with my family, but I also wanted a break. And I wanted all of the things to find that balance. And after speaking to Mary, she's done just that in her company. So, welcome.
Yes. Hi, Sarah. It's great to be here with you today.
Tell us a little bit about your company and how, not even know how it became to be, but tell us a little bit about your company first.
Sure. Yeah, my company is called Boon, Boon. We are a inventory management demand forecasting consultant agency. A lot of words that essentially mean we help retail brands or any product-based business really ensure that they have the right inventory at the right time and the right amount so that they stay in stock but don't get too far overstocked.
I love that. And how is this like the space you thought you would go into? Is this what your background is from?
Yes, actually, yeah. My background before starting Boone was in corporate retail and doing this exact same function for some of the larger corporations that we have. Yeah.
And when did you shift? When did that change?
Yeah. So similar to like how you said in the intro, it shifted mostly because of motherhood.
Of course.
At the time, I'd made it through quite a few big corporations, different experiences, was able to spend some time in full-time startup at one singular brand and
Mhm.
had two kids at the time. So I'd already had my first, had my second, and was still working, full-time for somebody else. And that's when I realized like this just isn't working. I wasn't able to find what I call the blend between
Mhm.
work and life that I wanted. So at the time when I had a 2.5-year-old and a 6-month-old, I decided that I wanted something different, looked out in the world. And this is now, we're talking about the year was 2017. So it was definitely different than today's world. And there was nothing that I could find that allowed me to have any kind of blend that would allow me to be a mom, be a working mom, use my brain in those ways, and also still be there for my kids. So I started Boone for exactly that reason, because I couldn't find anything that would fit the skills I'd created, the skills that I'd harbored through, or like, cultivated is the better word, cultivated for all those years, to be able to use that while still being the mom I wanted to be.
And I love that because so many moms I connect with want that and they can't
Mhm.
find it. So they
Mhm.
create it. And not only
Yes.
did you create it for you, but you've created it for other moms, which is my intrigue where this comes from.
Exactly. And truly that's what gets me out of bed every day is what I'm doing, not only to support our brands and helping them with their inventory, but my team. And my team is so near and dear to my heart. And, we're 7 years into this, and I have a team of 15 different women, all of whom work part-time. So through
Mhm.
the creation of Boone, they've been able to find this non-traditional opportunity to again use their skills. And we're talking about their core functional skills, not a part-time job that is adjacent to what you did or is just getting into something else because it's what available at part-time, but it's really using the skills that they worked so hard to build, and then they still want that same blend and are able to work for Boone part-time while filling their days with other things from kids to other entrepreneurial experiences and not be tied to one job or one schedule, 40 plus hours a week.
And I think that's why you stood out when we connected because it is like women who were in the workforce using the skills that they had in the workforce,
Mhm.
not completely having to shift
Right.
to, not that there's anything wrong with other things, but like to sell Pampered Chef. Like if
Mhm,
you were not in
mhm.
sales or you were
Yep.
not into cooking, but that's a great opportunity. A lot of the moms that I coach do that
Mhm,
because it's
mhm.
flexible, but it's not anything they're building their skills on, and it's not anything that's going to kind of launch them into their next thing. They're like, this is
Yes.
like a totally separate entity. And it's how they
Yes.
look at it also. So I
Yeah.
find it so intriguing that you're able to find women who are in their space still. And I love
Mhm.
that term blend. I feel like I'm stealing this from you. I'll give you
Yeah.
credit for it, but I love that
Awesome.
because
Yes.
it's not like I always tell people, like, it's not a balance. It's never
No,
balanced. It's never
never.
like 110% never is balanced. That's the only for sure thing. But the
I
blend is for sure because like women think, it is like men think like waffles and women like spaghetti. That I
yes.
that what that always stuck with me in
Yes.
early years of therapy of like, oh my goodness, this is exactly what it is. Your
Yeah.
work life doesn't shut off. Your momhood
Mhm.
life never shuts off.
Mhm.
So it is a blend. So are
Mhm.
these women working at home mostly, remotely?
100%. Yes, actually, Boone's been remote since I started it in 2017, and it was something that allowed me to have what I was looking for at that time, and it's definitely continued. Of course, with the pandemic in 2020, it became an easier sell for clients in order, to be able to service them without being physically in their office. But yes, the team works entirely from home. We have no physical office location that we require any of our teammates to be in. I personally am located in Ohio. A lot of our team is here, somewhat close to me, just given my geographic
Mhm.
connections and network. But we actually span across 3 time zones in the US and are global with one of our teammates living in Europe currently. So, yeah, it can be anywhere.
And to have that flexibility to be
Mm-hmm.
anywhere. So if
Mm-hmm.
your partner's job changes and you need to relocate, because that's what a lot of us went through with COVID, is like
Mhm.
jobs were lost, we needed to move. Not the other person kind of had to go along for the ride. If you're the part-time person, you're not
Yep.
the main breadwinner anymore, and that is awesome for the flexibility too. The
Yes.
the stages that your moms are they newer moms? Are they moms that have been in this for a while?
Yeah, I would say most of the current team is moms that have been in it for a decent while.
Mhm.
Now, the ages, I don't know the count off the top of my head. I believe there's about 38 children under the Boone
Oh my
umbrella in
goodness, that's
total.
amazing.
Yeah, and I think, they span from our youngest is about 6 months old on the team up until probably about 16. So
Okay.
the moms have been doing it for a variety of time. And I think the cool thing is that we are a space for them to meet them and blend their life how they want, right? The
Mhm,
ones with the younger children are still in that throes of daycare drop-offs and pickups and, more
mhm,
sick days than they would like. And the older kids, the moms of the older kids really are able to be there at the school for the events. They're able to take them to all their activities. They can shut work off at 3 o'clock and really meet their middle schooler after the bus. It might be the only time that middle schooler will talk to them. So we really find it as a way to, like, regardless of the stage of motherhood you're in, it allows you
mhm.
to, again, blend that back together.
I think that's outstanding. Were
Yeah.
you always this seems to come natural to you, and I feel like this happens to a lot of people that I talk to, of like, this seems like a natural talent that you have. Can you talk a little bit about like your early stages of motherhood? Maybe when you were in corporate and you hadn't transitioned to say like the soft and cozy blend you have now, or it was a little more jagged.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And I'll say I don't want it to sound too rosy, right? Like, I
Yeah.
work really hard. I spend a lot of time building Boone. I'm very dedicated. And I think that blend is something that I can talk about, like how that changes my mental approach to it.
I would love that. That's
And I
perfect.
think for me, when I started out in motherhood, I actually also had a very unique situation. I was one of those who was in a different role than my partner at the time. And I was working at a startup, but I was full-time virtual in 2014. So it was a point where I was working from home and I got a lot of comments from other moms or other parents saying, like, oh, well, maybe even not moms, just coworkers saying, you must not have childcare. It's like, no, no, just because I work from home doesn't mean that I can care for this infant or 6-month-old or 1-year old. So I had to
Mhm,
kind of combat some of the the norms or like the stigmas of what was happening.
mhm,
Um, and I think the dedication that I've always had is finding ways to use each hour as most appropriately as possible and kind of getting down into the granularity of the day. And even when I was working in that corporate environment from home, it was about how do I fill certain time frames and not get stuck on I can only start work at 8. I was benefiting to be from home. So sometimes I do work from 6 to 6:30, grab that chunk of time, do kids
mhm,
for a little bit, get them to daycare, come back to work. And really, even in that day, it was all about that blend. And I
mhm,
hate to like overuse that word. I don't know that, that wasn't our necessary intention here, but it is really important. And as I've, moved through those times of parenthood and really trying to figure out how to manage the household too, right? The kids are
mhm,
one thing, but everything that comes along with them, everything that comes along with life takes a lot of effort. So when I
mhm,
started Boone, it was about trying to find space for that and kind of re-blending that back together. Um, and ultimately, why I use that word so much and why I don't say balance is I'm a very numeric person. I live and breathe in numbers. My
mhm.
degree is in economics, and my background in my career has been in this inventory space where we spend a lot of time in spreadsheets. We see a lot of numbers equal this plus that. it can be very easy to think about balance. And as you say, try to keep things equal. And even if you try to think about equality over 7 days or 4 days, it brings sort of a burden to me. And I have to think about, my brain would say, wait, okay, so I added 3 hours there, but then I have to add 3 hours back. And trying
Mhm.
to find that equality just felt heavy. So with the idea of blend, it's not about, there's no numeric equation in my brain that goes on. It's just like, hey, we're going to exist this way. Then the next day we're going to flex here. And it's much more fluid.
Mhm.
So just one word change really changes that like mental outlook to it.
And that complete mindset shift, because even,
Hmm.
like, the visualization of it, like, I'm thinking of, like, all, like, the balance scales and things being
Hmm.
balanced. I try to tell moms, like, we strive for balance, but it's never balanced. It's
Right,
constantly ebbing and flowing and is fluid. But when
right.
you're talking about blend, I'm, like, looking at the picture behind me of, like, the blending colors
Yes,
of things, and it
yes,
shifts, and it can
yes.
shift hour to hour, day to day, definitely age and stage of motherhood as it shifts and changes. And it is
Mhm.
important to point out that just because you're working part-time doesn't mean you're not working hard. Like
Well,
like
absolutely.
completely, you're trying to do the best you can with what you have and your work sense and your mom
Mhm,
sense and your home life and all of it. So part-time doesn't mean easy. And I think there's been a slight shift after the pandemic with having childcare when you do work from home. But I met
mhm.
a group of moms the other day that were like, "Oh, you have your own business. It must be nice not to pay for childcare." And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Did you think I could accomplish something when I mean,
Right?
you can't get, like, normal day-to-day things done when you have especially the littles at home.
Mhm.
This is the
Mhm.
first year where both my kids are in school full time, and
Yeah.
it's, like, it's game changing, but
Yeah.
the idea of thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna do this and be a stay-at-home mom," is, like I
Right.
guess until you're in it, right? Like, until
Yeah.
you try to do it.
Right. I mean, I think a couple things you said there that just truly resonate with me is, part-time doesn't mean easy. And
Mhm.
I mean, I do work full-time as the, founder CEO
Yeah.
for Boone, but my team, I will sing their praises and I say I get some of their best hours, right? They'll work for Boone between 10 and 30 hours a week. And even
Mhm.
those who give me 10, like they dedicate those solid 10 hours. And I think there's something to be said for that, even compared to a full-time employee.
Mhm.
There's always lag time when you've got a 40-hour work week. But for my Boone team members, they're looking at it and they know they've got to get their projects done. So they give me high quality hour work
Mhm.
consistently. And I like praise them for that. And it goes back to them using their core skills and they feel there's a pride that comes from it too. So really being able to do that. And then and still back to that blending side, I think there's an element that tries to take a bit of the guilt out, right? Like we all will still experience mom guilt or work guilt on either
Mhm.
side, but giving yourself grace to know that you don't have to be at 50-50, or there just is no numeric value, like
Mhm.
somewhat helps the guilt to disseminate a little bit.
Absolutely, and just
Yeah.
allowing yourself that grace to be like that it's not this. I always tell people, if
Mhm.
you have, like, 1% left in the tank at the end of the day, and you give that 1%, you're actually giving 100% of what you have. Like,
Yes.
that is just, like, how I look at it, and it's my husband's traveling for work this week, so I feel that. I
Mm,
feel that at the end of the day of, like, there's
mhm.
no tag, you do
Yeah.
this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's true. If you have someone that's working 10 hours, you're probably getting a fantastic quality of 10
Yeah.
hours versus someone who is working 40, and there has to be ebbs and flows because you can't be all out for
Right.
those 40 hours. So I
Right.
I love that perspective too.
Right. For sure. For sure.
So where did you go from here? Are you looking to grow Boone? Are you looking to expand around the world? Are you looking to bring on more part-time moms? What does the future of Boone look like for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So Boone as a consultant agency is a very boutique agency.
Mhm.
We really target product-based businesses and brands that are as many female-founded, mission-based brands as we can. And that means a lot of them are small. And small means different things to different founders, right? So it doesn't matter exactly what your revenue is, but the point is we're not going after big, big companies anymore. I did that in my corporate life. The goal
Mhm.
of us is to provide this service to brands that otherwise wouldn't have it. So as we look forward, it's really about getting more of those brands in. I know there's so many out there. I mean, we've been able to help quite a few in our last 7 years, but really just finding more of those kind of brands that want to make sure their inventory is in a good place. And then, yes, like finding this opportunity internally for the team to have
Mhm.
more people experience this sort of non-traditional work that still uses your core skills. Um, Geographically, I don't know. I mean, yes, we're currently global. That is due to the situation you mentioned of, a significant other having a job relocation. So not something we necessarily took on as an expansion, but it's something we're able to be flexible with. And I think that's something as a leader and, a female founder that I'm trying to do is look at the opportunities ahead of me and make as smart of decision as I can and really see what is coming from other moms, from the retail environment that we live in, from the entrepreneurial side, from the
Mhm.
just like founder situations that I get myself into, and just take the next best opportunity that comes.
Absolutely. Well, keeping it
Yeah,
accessible and just empowering in general, because
yeah,
that the mental side of motherhood, I greatly underestimated. That I wanted to
sure.
use my brain for something else other than like a feeding schedule and like
Yes,
entertaining an infant. So I
yes,
think you don't, if that's not stuff you read about, those are things you don't realize it until you're in it. So
yes.
you, how many children do you have? We didn't go into
Yeah,
that in the beginning. And what
I
are
was
their
gonna
ages? People always ask me if I don't ask. I'm like, oh, we didn't talk about that.
Well, I was gonna, yeah, going back to the fact that like I don't want this to sound easy and I don't want me to make anybody sound like I've got it all or I do it all very easily. So, as I mentioned when I started Boone, I had two kids. Life takes you on some crazy journeys sometimes. So,
Sure
as we stand
does.
here today, I am the mom to six children. That is part of a blended family that we now have. So, I was actually the biological mom to four and have two stepchildren, and
Mhm.
their ages are from top to bottom are 11, 9, 8, 7, 4, and 4. So the
It's
little
amazing.
guys are identical twins. So it's just a really crazy, chaotic life that we live in. And exactly like the mental load of doing that on top of Boone and being able to be present for them is something that I don't take for granted. And it's hard. And anyone who maybe, sees me in social media or on other podcasts, it's hard. Like, I don't want it to sound like it's easy, but being able to find the right blend is how I can,
Mhm.
do what I do day in and day out.
And it sounds like just taking that, like, next right step, the next right choice. Like, I think
Hmm.
sometimes we kinda look at big picture, and it is overwhelming,
Yeah.
especially if you like, one of your moms has a six-month-old at home,
Yep.
and it's very hard to see the light at the end of, like, what is this gonna look like in
Hmm.
not even 6 months, but maybe 6 weeks, and things
Right.
shift and change, and as your kids get older, your life changes, like, it's just definitely something I didn't consider in the early stages of motherhood, of, like,
Hmm.
this is hard, and then it becomes a different kind of hard, and then things shift again, and it's a new hard, and my
Hmm.
friends that I had kids later in life, so most of my friends have kids that are, like, teenagers and off to college, and they're like,
Hmm.
"Hold on to this, like, hold on to the tantrums, hold on to the bedtime routine, hold on to reading to them at bed at nighttime," and all the things because it is I mean, obviously, they say it all the time, it's so cliche that it goes so fast, but
Hmm.
you gotta make the best of what the time you have, and like you said, life throws crazy journeys. You got all
Yes.
these children, and then you have identical twins, like,
Yeah.
what? That's unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah, it is a journey. And I mean, I can giggle about it and laugh at it. And it really is. It's delightful and wonderful and hard. And the
Mhm.
cliche that I live by truly is, the hours are long. I think the regular cliches, the days are long, but for me, it's like the
Yes.
hours are long, but the years are so short. And I look at my kids now and it's like amazing to see what they've grown into even in the last year or two. And you're like, wow, it
Mhm.
goes so fast. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to have you on today. How can people find you? What's the best way to connect?
Yes, I mean, I'd love for you to follow me on the business side. So you can find Boone on any of our social media channels. Easiest is probably Instagram. You can find us at Boone underscore LLC there. Personally, if you want to find me, Mary, directly, you can find me on Instagram at Mary underscore momentary. So Mary momentary, and then connect through us any other way via our Instagram links would be great.
I love it. I love what you and your team are doing. It's such an amazing journey, and you're making it a lot easier for
Yes,
moms, which
thank
we
you. I really
appreciate.
appreciate. Thank you for having me on the platform, and I'm excited to, hopefully
Of
help a
course.
mom or two out there.
Yes, and I'll put all your information in the show notes also, so they can just do an
Wonderful.
easy click.
Wonderful.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining
Thanks,
us
Sarah.
today. Have a great
Yes.
day.
Thanks, you too.